or tables. And the first case you're going to see is Coleman. And Coleman has a case filed on '09, and it has an adjournment. So what you're going to do here is you're going to mark it an adjournment. You're going to mark a little tick mark. And then you're going to also, you're going to look and see it was filed in 2009. So in 2009, you're going to make the tally here. So once again, this is what you're collecting. Filed by year and the case status. So for each line in this table, you're going to make a little tick mark or a tally mark, because you're not going to be able to memorize all of these things. So you're using a little tick mark. And at the end, you'll tally up the tick marks. Now, when you go back to your daily log of cases on page 55, make a little line there with your pencil to let you know you did that one, so you don't repeat that data in the summary table. So if you go to the second line on the raw data table, you'll see ULO. And ULO had a case dismissed, dismissed the case, and also the case was filed in '08. So for that second mark, the second line, you're going to put 2008, and you're going to put dismissed. So you're going to make a little tick mark. So now you have two cases that you've already, from the raw data table, you're making two marks next to it, so you know that you recorded those two. And of course, you're recording two aspects, the status and the year. And so now you have 1, 2, 3, 4 tick marks, and everything is fine, and you just keep going down the list. The next one is Judge Cohn, and it's filed in 2010, and it's adjourned. So we get another adjourned tick mark here, and 2010, you get a tick mark here. And you just keep going down the tables. Now, as I said, on the exam, you're probably going to have more than one raw data table, so you'll have to go through all of the tables in the raw data to enter this particular summary table. Okay, so that's the first summary table. Now let me just review what you do. You start with the first listing on the initial table, and it's posted once. The adjourn row, once in 2009 row, and that's it. So you tally that up. And also make a mark next to the first row in the raw data table to let you know you're done with that for this summary table. Now, make a mark next to the second row in the raw data table when you finish that, and as you keep going, you continue posting all of the data until you're finished with all the data that are in any and all of the raw data tables that you're working with. When you finish posting all the data, count up the tallies in each box, and then you're done. And what you do when you're finished with it is, after you're finished with the tallies, what you should do is you should total up the tallies and circle them. That's the best way to do it. And I'm just going to give you an example here. You'll have two, let's see, you will have 2 and 5. So just to give you an example. Okay, so here's your tally when you're finished with all the raw data tables. So when you're finished with the 2, so you don't think that that's a number 11, you're going to do this and circle it, okay? And this is 5, and you're going to circle it. And you're going to continue down, all the way down, when you finish all of your tick marks. And that's going to enable you to answer the questions that are going to be following the summary tables. Now, there is a second table. If you look at page 61, there is a second summary table. And that second summary table is summary of cases by judge. So what they want you to do here is they want you, and if you can see behind me, I'm going to stand to the side, this is what the table looks like. And it is on the top of page 61. And you're going to do the same exact thing for this table. They are breaking it down by judge, and so you have a list of all the judges, you have totals, and you're going to go to the raw data table again, and by judge, you're going to list what happened with the cases, and you're going to have to total them. So you do basically the same thing that you did for the other table, and I'm just going to give you an example. So, for the first case in the raw data table, you have Coleman, and you have an adjournment. So you're going to write a tick mark for Coleman. Now in the raw data table, you're going to make another line to show that you're done with that. Now some people can do all the summary tables at the same time. So that would require you to make the entries in the first over there, the tally over there, and then when you're on the first line of the raw data table for Coleman, you're going to make 3 marks. So you're going to make a mark for adjourned here for the first line in the raw data, a tick mark in the 2000 line. You're going to go to the second summary table and you're going to put adjourned here. Okay? That's probably the most efficient way to do it. But if you get multiple summary tables to create, you're going to have to decide after you practice these tables which works for you. All right? For me, it's most efficient to do it all at the same time. I'm just breaking it up now so that you can understand how you would do it individually. So the second one is ULO. ULO is on the second line in the raw data table, and for the second summary table, you have a dismissal. So you're going to make a tick mark here, and in the raw data table, you're going to make a second or a third line, so you're done with it on recording this table. The third one is Cone. Cone adjourned the case. So Cone adjourned it. I'm going to make a tick mark here. The fourth one is Fang, and he settled the case. But he settled the case with a money award. So you have to be very careful. He settled it with a money award, which is basically the next to the last column before the total. So you will continue this until you're done with posting all the information in the raw data table, so that you have the answers, and the answers will be in the book on page 63. So on 63 in the book, you're going to have all of that. So just to review how to post the data in the second summary table. Start with the first listing in the initial raw data table and post it in the correct row and the correct column. And make a second mark to the first row in the raw data table to indicate you have recorded this data. You continue until you are finished. All right? And as I said before, you can do both summary tables at the same time, but you'll have to record once the case status, twice the total cases by year, and then you'll have to go to the table that's the second summary of cases by judge, and you will have to record it a third time for each line in the raw data table. You can do it whichever way works for you. Okay, so now you'll see on page 62, they're going to ask you questions about these tables. And what you're going to do now is you're going to pause the DVD or the computer, whatever you're working with, and pause it now, continue creating these tables in exercise number 1, and when you're finished, answer all the questions on page 62. There are 10 questions there. Then I'm going to review the answers with you. Okay, by now, hopefully you finished and you were very adept in creating the summary tables, and we're going to go detailed answers to the questions based on the summary of cases. And as I said before, the summary of cases by judge are listed right on page 63, which will give you a lot of the answers. So the question number 1 is, how many cases heard on March 22nd had no money award? And so that, if you look at the answers, the first data table you created, the daily breakdown of cases, page 43, there were 2 settled of cases. There were 10 total cases. Thus, 8 did not have a money award. So the answer is D. Question number 2. How many settled cases on Monday had a monetary award of more than $20,000? And to answer that question, you refer to the raw data table. Since you didn't tally that in a summary table, you need to go sometimes, and in this instance, to the raw data table. And you get your answer. You should reach this conclusion. The answer is A, and it's a bit of a trick. It's 2. And You may have this on the exam. Once again, you may have 3 or 4 or 5 raw data tables, and you may have to actually count it up on the exam because you have not tallied this on any of the summary tables. So just be aware of that. Number 3, how many cases before Judge Cohn and Coleman were adjourned on 3/22? So you have a question regarding 2 judges, and you are going to have to add together 2 tallied numbers. So refer to the second summary table. Judge Cohn and Coleman each had 2 cases adjourned on the date in question. You can see that right on top of page 63 in that table. That totals to 4, so your answer for 3 is B. Number 4, how many cases filed in 2008 were heard on 3/22? The answer is C. Once again, you did not tally that, so refer to the daily breakdown of cases for the quick answer. You have tallied this total cases filed by year portion of the table. Of course, you can also look and count on the original table. When you have very, very detailed information, and a lot of it, you're probably not going to have the time to go back and count up all the information. So that's why the summary tables are really good to have accurate and to refer to for most of the questions that are in here. Number 5, how many cases were dismissed on 3/22? Refer again to the daily breakdown of cases, and the answer is 2, and that's A. That's choice A. Number 6, which judges heard the most cases on 3/22/2010? So for number 6, the answer is D. Refer to summary of cases by judge, which is the second summary table. As you can see from that table, which is on page 63, Judges Ulo and Cohn each handled 3 cases. No other combination of judges totaled that many. Okay, number 7, how many cases heard on Monday, 3/22, were filed in 2009 and also had a money award? Number 7. Once again, you have not tallied this information in the summary tables, so you must consult the original raw data table and notice that both cases with money awards were filed in 2008. Thus, the correct number is 0. Choice B. Number 8, how many cases heard on March 22nd were adjourned? The answer is A. Refer to either of the summary tables you created. The total adjourned cases for this date can be tallied in the daily breakdown of cases, which is the first summary table, or the summary of cases in the totals row at the bottom. The correct number is 5. In this kind of example, you can also refer to the raw data table and do the counting. But as I said, on the exam, you probably will have multiple raw data tables, and you're going to run out of fingers or patience. So it's good to have the summary tables created. And that works as a check on the exam. If you have the time and you want to review the tables, then you can do that and count up at the end, not using the raw data. Now, question number 9 says, which judge had the same number of dismissed cases as adjourned cases on March 22nd? And that answer is C. Refer to the summary of cases by judge, which is on the top of page 63, the answer. As can be seen from the table above, Judge Ulo had the same number of dismissed cases as adjourned cases, 1 for this date. Question number 10. Which judge adjourned the least number of cases on Monday, March 22nd? The answer to that question, you have to refer to the summary of cases by judge table, the second summary table, which has the answers on page 63. Judge Fong was the only judge with no adjourned cases on that date, and you will see that he has nothing on that date. So that is the answer. That is choice A. No, the exam will likely have more than one summary table and more than one raw data table to fill out. They're likely to be on different pages. They'll contain multiple dates. And when you're doing the questions, just be very, very focused into what they're asking in the questions. Because you have multiple dates on both raw data and summary tables, and you'll have multiple judges, look at the question and read it carefully. They will ask you questions, once again, about 2 judges, about 3 judges, about 1 date, and about multiple dates. So you make sure that what they're asking is focused in on so that you can look at the tables and get it correct. You want to get these correct, and you want to review them, and you can review them if you have the time by going back to the initial raw data tables and counting up if you have the time. Now, continue on page 64 is table exercise 2, and continue on using the same kind of methods that we've gone over. In this particular, in exercise 2, they have different case types, so they've created a key where different case type is got different letters, and they will give you the key on page 65. And just as a little bit of a hint, when you're going through the case types and you're doing tallying, you can use the codes just as you did when you're doing the clerical checking and you were writing the equals and 1 equals 3 and 2 equals 4. Here, they've given you the code. Now write the code on any table that you need so that you don't have to read the word or words contained in the code. You can just look at the code and you can quickly tally whatever they're looking for you to tally. Now continue on, and good luck. Thank you. Hello, I'm Mark Spiritus again with the module on applying facts and information to given situations. These questions appear on many different types of exams, and basically they require a good amount of comprehension from reading. So they're like reading comprehension questions, but they also will test your reasoning skills. The reader has to be able to understand a given procedure, a rule or regulation, then be able to apply it to a specific situation. The question requires you to apply the rule or law to determine the best behavior that should be followed. All information to answer the question is contained in each paragraph, and the combination of the procedure-related paragraph and the description of the situation. Theoretically, no prior knowledge should be needed. The more you are familiar with regulations and the type of writing that's done for regulations and relevant vocabulary, the better off you're going to be in applying that regulation to the situation and your comprehension of the material. Now, on these types of questions, you should understand that they create questions very difficult for these type of questions, these types of questions on an exam, because the answers are right on the page, in a sense, so that they create distractors or decoys. The people who create the exams are going to be creating distractors or decoys to trick you into choosing the wrong answer, because that's really all they have. If the answers are right on the page, they're either in the regulation or in the paragraph that you're going to read, they're going to have to get people to get some questions wrong. So they're going to create specifically designed answer choices so that you jump at it because it looks familiar, it's in the paragraph. This is what people do who create these questions. So I want you to just be familiar with different types of decoys that are created for these questions, okay? The answer choice might create a fact or a difficult word or a phrase with difficult words or multiple words and multiple phrases that is very difficult to understand. And if you read the law, you'll understand what I mean by saying that. But the answer choice does not answer the question. So they give you a difficult question from difficult rule and regulation and a difficult paragraph, and they give you answer choices. What do you see in the answer choices? You see something that's written in the paragraph. Even though you don't completely understand it, you say, I'm going for that because it's in the paragraph. It's human nature to do that. But it's also designed to be there so that you will jump at that answer. But it does not answer the question. Make sure the choice that you select on the exam answers the question. That is a specific decoy used on any type of question that has reading comprehension as its design. The second type of decoy you might see is the answer choice is going to contain a statement which you know is true from real life, from your common knowledge, and if you work in the court system, maybe even from your work experience in the court system. But it's not true because it's not based on the regulation that's on the page, or it's not relevant to the situation which is described on the page. That is very common on many of these questions, that they are going to give you an answer choice that you know is true. The paragraph says the sky is blue and the sky outside is gray, and you know it's gray because you live in an area like Seattle and it's gray every day. And then on the answer choices, they're going to say the sky is gray. You're going to jump to your prior knowledge, and you're going to go and put the answer as the answer, the sky is gray. It's a very simplistic way of representing it, but you can see how they do that on exams, and I'm sure you're going to see it on this exam, that there will be choices that make good common sense to you, but they're not supported by the rule or regulation and or by the information contained in the situation which is subsequent or follows the paragraph, the rule or regulation. And the third choice decoy that they might give you is the paragraph is true and it's in it, but it is still wrong. So once again, it's something that may be in the paragraph that's very difficult to read or understand, or especially in the rule or regulation, and it's still wrong. So once again, you don't know what you've seen, you can't understand it, it's legalese, it's a rule and regulation, it's got very difficult words in it, and you are not sure, you see it, but it's the wrong answer. So that's another type of decoy, and just be aware that these answers that they're giving you, they're not just there for you to find the right answer. They're designed for you to select the wrong answer. Now, some other things that you can do to improve your reading comprehension, because that's really something that you could really work on a lot, is to increase your vocabulary. If they're giving you rules and regulations and laws, then you should be consulting books that contain rules, regulations, and laws. I'm sure in your local libraries you can find the regulation guides for the police department, for police officers, the fire department rules. You can find a lot of different types of guides like that that contains rules and regulations. If you can't find any of that, you can go to the administrative code of the city of New York, look at the law, and read some of the rules and the regulations. You'll learn the language, the lingo, and it'll make you a better reader. And that's really one of the things you can do. If you want to read newspapers for better reading comprehension, then unfortunately, drop my favorite papers at the door. Do not read the news, the Daily News, the New York Post, and I don't care if they sue me for this, but the bottom line is those newspapers are written at a grade school level. If you want to enjoy them like I do. But for the exam, you need to read newspapers that are written at a higher level. So read highly technical information which will be contained in papers like the Times, the New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal. Those will have vocabulary written at a college level, and you'll benefit from it in terms of increasing your reading comprehension. But if you can't get those books which have rules and regulations for any agencies, sanitation, police, fire, court system, whatever you can get your hand on for this type of question, you want to get as proficient as you can in reading rules and regulations. And they're very specifically written, but you'll learn some of the language. So basically, I'm going to do exercise, the sample exercise on page 48 with you, and then you'll go and you'll practice this on your own, but do more than just go through the ones in this book. Increase your vocabulary for this exam, for any civil service exam, by reading difficult material, not material that's targeted towards people on a grade school level. So basically, if you read on page 48, I'll read it to you. A calendar is a printed listing of the cases to be heard in a day in a particular courtroom. In many courts, the court assistant must ensure that the courtroom is prepared for daily activity. They must ensure the calendar is complete and that a copy is conspicuously posted outside of the courtroom for the public. At the proper time, the court assistant calls the name of each case on the calendar in order and must record the presence of the parties or their attorneys for each case that is called. At the end of calling the calendar's cases, the court assistant should inquire of the people in the courtroom if anyone's case was not called. The court assistant must ensure that any case not on the calendar in error is added to the calendar and subsequently called. If the case is pending in that is pending in that courtroom but is on for a different date, the party or the attorney can make a request to the judge to advance the case for that particular day. In all other cases, the court assistant should attempt to locate the proper court or courtroom where the case is pending and provide the information to the person for follow-up. Okay, so after calling, that is the rule of regulation, and now you'll get a situation. And so after calling the calendar on Monday, the court assistant inquires whether anyone's case has not been called. Dewey Cheatham, an attorney, identifies himself in the case he was expecting to be called on the calendar. After careful research, the court assistant notifies Mr. Cheatham that the case is on a calendar for that date, but in a different county. Mr. Cheatham insists the case be called in this courtroom. All right? Based on the above information, which would be the correct response from the court assistant? All right, so you get 4 choices here. A, call the other court where the case is assigned and request that the case be transferred immediately. Okay? Now, is there anything in the procedure that suggests that a court assistant can take a case that's pending in another county to be heard in this county? There's nothing in this information, regardless of what you might know in the past or you might heard of in the past. There's nothing in this rule of regulation to suggest that it's in the court assistant's discretion to call another case, to call another county and make a request like that. So A is wrong. B, add the case to the calendar in the court assistant's courtroom for this date. Once again, this is not in the regulation at all, so that would be incorrect. C, advise Mr. Cheatham that it is his responsibility to follow up in the correct county. Okay, that makes some sense, but let's look at choice D. Add the case to the calendar in the court assistant's courtroom for the next available date. Once again, that would be taking a responsibility of adding a case to a calendar in a county where it's not pending. And there's nothing in the regulation that would authorize a court assistant or anybody actually in this regulation that's given to you the authority to do that, to make a transfer of a case to that county. So C is supported by the last sentence of the first paragraph. In all other cases, the court assistant should attempt to locate the proper court or courtroom where the case is pending and provide this information to the person for follow-up. So the follow-up will be done not by the court assistant, by that person who's in the courtroom, the court user, in this case, Dewey Cheatham, who happens to be an attorney. So when applying the procedure, law, or policy, don't rely on prior knowledge of what proper or courteous behavior may be. Although it's important to be courteous, and that may be part of it, you are looking to go to the rule or regulation to look at the prescribed behavior that would be best or would be required in the situation that follows that regulation. Now, starting on page 49, you're going to have different exercises and problems, and you're going to continue on these and use the techniques that I talked about, and also work on increasing your reading comprehension, which generally is a part of almost every court exam, and it'll help